for the love of marketing. I am Namrata and that is Simon. Hope you're all having a good day. And today I wanted to talk about career in digital marketing and marketing in general, and how like people should plan their skills and their education to have a successful career in marketing. And obviously you have been working in this industry for such a long time. So what does a day in your life look like? And yeah, what does an average day in your life look like?
I mean, the great thing about marketing is it's hard to have an average day. I've been in marketing for nearly 25 years, as you know, and in that time, I've done a lot of different roles. I've worked in SEO, I've worked in social media, worked in design and copywriting and branding and TV advertising and press and radio and of course Google ads and copywriting, you name it, really, over the years. I've been very fortunate to work in a very diverse set of roles. And for me, one of the reasons I love marketing is because it is so diverse and it is so different every day from one day to the next. And at the moment I spend days looking at how we're going to make an advertising campaign work in the US, and how we're going to bring thousands of people on a journey for a new app or a new experience, which brings in technology, it brings in your trends around data and consumer behavior and psychology, and then you'll switch from that to looking at a website and how you can improve the SEO and technical problems, and you start to go into programming and algorithms, and then you flip over to social media and start looking at what's trending over there and creative ideas and video creation. So I think it's hard to say what a typical day looks like. I think you need to, within marketing, be good at multitasking. You need to be good at switching your brain. We've talked about left and right brain marketing in the past. I think you need to be pretty good at switching between those in marketing. And because I run a business these days, of course, there's other things I have to think about, less interesting things for marketers around finance and hiring and things like that, which are very exciting things to have to do, but a very different discipline. But having done quite a bit of work in the area of things like finance in the past myself, and done a lot of hiring and managing leadership things over the last 20 years as well, I find that marketing is one of the most diverse areas. HR is also pretty diverse, from my experience with some fantastic people in HR, but it's very challenging. You can be doing something completely different from one day to the next, whereas in some roles you're doing very, very similar things from one day to the next. So I'd recommend that in marketing, but I'd say anyone who's looking for a career in marketing, especially in a generalist role, be prepared to be on your toes, multitasking, and having constantly changing objectives and landscapes from one day to the next. Because even if your job and your priorities stay the same, the technology and the industry that you work within is going to change whether you like it or not. So it's exciting, it's dynamic, and I love that. And if you're going into marketing, make sure that you love that too, I suppose, is the best advice.
Yeah, I just love how you have to pretty much do the same thing but in different ways each time, which makes you learn more things, and it's just an exciting approach to life. It's not the same thing that you have to do 100 times. You have to do something new with your approach every single day for the same company, and yeah, it's just very exciting in my point of view. So what do you think are skills that will allow people to be so dynamic and be able to change and work according to the industry? So what are the
I think that there's a lot of skills that you need in marketing, as I say. Now, it differs depending on which role you're in. Of course, marketing is incredibly broad. People often think about marketing as advertising, but that's really 1% of marketing. It's an incredibly broad area. So it does depend, but I break skills down into hard skills and soft skills, as many people do. And I think there are some hard skills that most marketers need. One of those is some form of data analysis. Now, if you're in a pure creative role, then perhaps you don't. But those are few and far between, and you may even argue they're not really marketing roles if you're purely creating. But most roles will need some level of data analysis, whether you're in advertising or SEO, and even in some creative roles, you want to understand how your creative has performed certainly in social media. I mean, you really look across the board. So the ability to understand data and what it's telling you, life is all about stories, really, and what you want to take from the data is what is the story that the data is telling you. Okay, not that number was 10 and now it's 15. Okay, great. Okay, we can read from that it's gone up up by 50%. But why? What's caused that? What's the story behind it? Why is always the question to ask with data. So understanding how to interpret data is a really important skill. Understanding technology to an extent as well. Being a technophobe is a hard thing in marketing. You don't have to be a technophile. You don't have to be an innovator and an early adopter, but you need to have a decent grip on technology, because you're going to be using it pretty much across every platform, certainly from CRM and CMS to automation and data platforms. There are many different areas of technology. Don't have to be passionate about it, don't have to be an expert, but you need to at least have a grip of roughly how the platforms work and how they fit together, if you're going to succeed in marketing in the future. So those areas are certainly important. And then softer skills, I think you need a level of effective communication. Whether you are, again, looking at link baiting on SEO, or a really great social media campaign, or advertising, or whichever area you're in, you need to really understand how to communicate effectively to your clients, and to your potential clients, your target audience, and also internally. I mean, you're going to be working with a team, almost certainly, internally, even if that team isn't a marketing team, even if it's just other people across the organization. Being able to, again, sell your story and bring them on the journey with you is important. I talk a lot about skills in the latest edition of the book, Digital Marketing Strategy, and I think we summarize that by talking about how you convince people to invest in digital marketing. I think that communication piece, again, come back to storytelling, but selling that story and bringing people on your journey is important. So communication is critical. I think flexibility is important, because, as I say, you're going to be doing different things. You're going to need to adapt very quickly. Tenacity is important. Sometimes things won't work. You need to keep going at it, keep testing, trying to learn everything you can, and keep going until it works. Not every campaign I've run, certainly in my career, has worked. Some have been a complete disaster. Some have worked way better than I would have expected. So you've got to be tenacious and really keep going at it. And I think the other one I would mention is planning. And as I always say, this is not the most exciting area of a job. When people talk about digital marketing, they always love to talk about social media and SEO. Areas like planning rarely get a look in, but planning really probably is one of the most important skills you can have in marketing. If you're really going to run a campaign that is going to perform at its best, it needs to go across multiple channels. It needs to be properly analyzed. It needs to be fully integrated. It needs to match up with trends and timing of things going on in the market. All of that takes really good, effective planning to make sure it comes off without a hitch. So, as unglamorous as it is, I would say planning is another soft skill that's really important. So there are hundreds, but it's an example of certainly some important ones.
I think the most important one is like being open to learn new things forever, because things will change, things keep changing. And I think, having that attitude of always being ready to learn. And then there are some skills that are very much overhyped in the industry. Like, you need to know Photoshop, you need to know how to edit like in Premiere Pro and that kind of thing. While you can make similar graphics on even MS Paint if you're talented enough. And I don't think the kind of software that you use or things that you use should matter. But what is your opinion on that? Like, what are some overhyped skills that people should not waste their time investing in?
I mean, I don't know about not waste their time, but I think there are skills that are overhyped. I think Photoshop's a great example. I mean, you're right. There are some wonderful things that could be made in Microsoft Paint, surprisingly. I still use Microsoft Paint, to be honest with you, every week, certainly, because there are things, sometimes I don't want to wait for Photoshop to load. I just want to knock something up quick, and Paint does the job. So it still has its place 20, 30 years after it really first showed its face. So I think it's a great little tool, but obviously it doesn't have the power of Photoshop. But obviously Canva nowadays has a decent platform for creating imagery and video. Again, not the power of the likes of Photoshop and InDesign and Premiere Pro, but certainly can get you a long way there. So yeah, I think you're right. If you rewound 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you would be saying to people, you need to have Photoshop. Nowadays, you don't need to have Photoshop as a skill, but if you're going to be doing advanced stuff, it certainly helps. But yeah, not essential. It is a bit overhyped. I think another interesting one is coding. I wouldn't say that's overhyped again. I think but it's not necessarily a skill that marketers are going to need for much longer. It helps at the moment as a marketer to know some degree of coding. Again, you don't have to be a developer, but understanding how code works, so as you can think scientifically and logically about what the algorithms might be doing and what might be happening with your website and your SEO and things like that. You don't need to know it inside out, but having a grip of the principles of it is really helpful. I think as we go forward, that may change a little bit with some of the tools that are coming in into the industry, but I think certainly that is an area that is important to know right now, but may not be as important as we think in the future. And I mean, for marketers, programming is still going to be hugely important for people in general, right? As we go into the metaverse and robotics and AI, and it still has an enormous amount of value to it. But for marketers, may become less essential. So yeah, there are a number of tools like that are perhaps a little bit overhyped and don't need to be on the CV as much these days, unless you're going to be a full-on designer. But look, I think Canva does a great job of trying to replace the more complex ones with some pretty smart tools, but only gets you so far.
Yeah, having a bit of knowledge is good, but yeah, we don't have to go all out and be Photoshop experts or something like that. Yeah, so on the topic of learning and reading and always being open to learn, one of the most asked questions in this industry would be like, do I need a degree to pursue digital marketing? Is that a necessity? I feel like this question is thrown around a lot. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I personally studied marketing. For me, it was something I discovered at school. I did a lot of subjects at school, as everybody does, and majority of what I studied at school I found dull, boring, to be honest with you. One of those that I found boring was history, which is now a massive passion of mine, so that must have just been my teacher's fault. But yeah, there were a lot of things I just wasn't interested in at school, and for me, towards the end of school, I did a topic called communication studies, where we looked at advertising and marketing and some of the psychological effects of that, and how music is used within communications, and lots of stuff that I found really interesting, really enjoyable, fascinating. So I went off and studied marketing at university myself, and definitely that gave me a head start in the early part of my career. Because you obviously study a lot about international marketing and branding, and creating advertising. There's a little bit about financial responsibility and things like that, but a lot of good principles, international marketing, etc. A lot of really good stuff that has helped me, certainly in the early part of my career. But even now, I still dip back into, that thing we studied there is helpful in my thinking. Of course, nowadays my book is used at a lot of universities to teach marketing, so it's gone full circle in that respect. But look, I don't think it's essential. I don't think it's essential to study marketing or digital marketing. I would definitely recommend it. It gives you a real head start. It gives you a really good understanding. And if you don't study it, then you've got to spend the first few years of your career learning it on the job. Now, you won't at university learn it on the job. So you still need to come out and do that work in real time to really understand the principles of what works and what doesn't work and everything else. You're not going to learn it perfectly at university, but it gives you a head start. Now, I don't believe it's essential. I think in reality, it's the doing is where you learn the most. And as I think I put out a video fairly recently about failure, and failure is fine. Failure is very much a good thing. Everyone in the world who is famous for having succeeded failed a lot before they succeeded, and you learn a heck of a lot from failing. So I think learning on the job, making mistakes, getting things wrong, learning how to get it right, testing, etc., is where you get the majority of your value and where you really build your career from. But you get a real head start from studying it first. So yeah, my view would be, no, you don't have to study. And if you're already out there working, you haven't studied, don't feel pressured to go and study. I think go out there and smash it and show everyone what you can do in your job and you'll be fine. But if you're still in school and you're thinking, should I study marketing? I really want to go into it. My advice would be, yes, you'll get a head start.
Yeah, what I studied at university, I'm doing nothing close to that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it. I mean, that's the other thing, right? I mean, you never quite know what you're going to go into. I mean, I studied marketing and went into marketing. I've got two brothers, and neither of them are doing anything related to what they did at university. And most people I know are not working in the field that they went into at university. But it's not necessarily about that. University, obviously, if you study something that you then go on to do as a career, that's great. And some careers you have to anyway. But even if you don't, it still gives you a certain level of discipline, and it demonstrates to employers that you're willing to commit to something and work on it and show and complete something over a long period of time, show your intelligence and your hard work. So yeah, even if you're not studying the field you're going to work in, it's still a benefit to going to university. Plus it's great fun going to university anyway, so why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, the fun part was questionable for me because of the pandemic, but
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. I know
yeah,
the last few years have been tough.
yeah. But yeah, I think education always comes in handy in long run. That is something nobody can take away from you. So it's an investment worth making. And yeah, so thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to tell like little kids or excited enthusiasts to end the interview?
No, I mean, look, for me, just I guess the only thing I would summarize at the end is just be brave. If you want to make something happen, go and make it happen. Right? If you want to study, go and study. If you don't want to study, don't study. Go out there and find your own path, but just be brave and go at it and be tenacious, and don't let failure or doubt hold you back. Just go for it, smash it. You'll be great.
Thank you so much, Simon, for your time. Subscribe our YouTube channel for more marketing tips and advice, and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple. See you all the next time. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.